Hey guys, Seth Fuller, your favorite lawyer here. I'm here to update my analysis of the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting now that the trial is over. Now, as I'm making this, testimony is already done. The state and the defense have both put on their arguments as to what instructions should go to the jury as far as self-defense and provocation and stuff, and the judge is deliberating that. So that's where we are right now. Now I'm going to post a link at the end, so if you didn't see my first video, skip there, because I'll just tell you this. I'm not going to cover that stuff, and that's pretty much the crux of the interview. In fact, I give myself a little pat on the back, a little self kudos, because honestly, the arguments they were having as to the instructions for the jury were right along the lines of the arguments I talked about in regards to how the law is poorly stated in this original video that I did, and I'm not going to go over that again. I am going to go over what I saw in the trials. I was not able to watch the whole thing. I have my own practice to run. I have my own trials to prepare for, but I was able to go through a lot of the main video, and I was able to watch a lot, big chunks of the prosecution and defense, and of course the news has kept me apprised. So all that being said, and I was able to watch all the instruction argument, because I find that the most interesting. So that being said, here's what I get out for the trial. There was almost no new evidence. The only new evidence was clearer, sharper video from a drone that showed that Mr. Rosenbaum, that's Joseph Rosenbaum, the first person that Kyle shot, was for sure going after Kyle. He was running after Kyle, throwing stuff at him, and advanced on him and attempted to grab his gun. That is even more clear than the pretty clear footage we had before the trial. And so that probably was the main piece of evidence that I think came in that I think really affected everything. Everything else we kind of already knew. Now, there was some different testimony as to like details around it, and I'm not going to go over that. If you want a detailed analysis, you can go to my last video, and there's enough details in that to bore you to sleep. What I'm going to talk about is, as a defense attorney, what I would want to see, and as a former prosecutor, what I think I saw. I'm going to stop right here and say, I know, based on your team, the judge was terrible or the judge was great, the prosecution was terrible or the prosecution was great. I don't think in black and white. I think in nuances. I think in reality. I think in reasonable, logical ways, and based on how people actually act, not some, black and white, all or nothing way. So first off, the main thing was the prosecution and some things they did. They did cross the line, and by cross the line, I mean go beyond. There were some Fifth Amendment things that they tried to get in front of the jury. They tried to get a photo of Kyle wearing an explicit shirt, months after the incident. Tried to get a lot of things in and get away with a lot of things that that people were disturbed by, but I was not. The prosecution is doing what they can. Look, we have an adversarial system. Now, the way it's supposed to work is the prosecution is supposed to be kind of seeking justice, and the defense is supposed to be defending their client zealously. So it's not a truly adversarial system by design. But as we all know, we're all humans. As we know, we all put ourselves in teams. And indeed, the prosecution almost always puts itself at the opposite end, where they're just seeking a prosecution no matter what. And I'll go into more detail on that in 1 second. The prosecution crossed the line because they knew they could. They're behind the 8 ball on this case. There was, again, detailed videos of everything that happened. And there are some elements that they couldn't get around, most notably that except for the shootings, Kyle Rittenhouse was generally a well-behaved and even behaving above and beyond. He was there to serve people. He pretended he was a medic. He was there to protect something. That was his intention. Now, again, I truly don't think a 17-year-old should be running around with a rifle, especially without supervision, especially in a riot zone. That's a recipe for disaster. In fact, the disaster that did happen. And I understand where people come from when they say, because this is the root of what happened, that just case closed. He put himself in this terrible situation, made terrible decisions, and people ended up dying, so he should be held responsible. But that's not how I believe the law should work, and luckily I don't believe the law works like that. The way the law works is just because you do something stupid, as long as your intentions are pretty good, then if you don't lose your right to self-defense because you did something dumb. You lose your right to defend yourself and protect yourself from harm and death when you are intentionally committing a crime. And this didn't seem to be the case. Every video shown of Kyle was of him kind of helping people. Nothing rough. He wasn't cussing at people. He wasn't aggressive towards people. He wasn't doing any of that. And more importantly, the videos of Joseph Rosenbaum, the first person he shot, were the opposite. This dude was a scumbag. And if you want to hate someone, I think we should all get together and hate Joseph Rosenbaum. No matter how liberal leaning you are, no matter what you think, this guy was a gross, aggressive wart on society. Do I think he should be summarily executed? No. That is not what happened, though. What happened is he found a dumb 17-year-old carrying a rifle. He decided he was going to get aggressive with said dumb 17-year-old carrying a rifle, and he went after him and tried to do harm to him with the same intent that he carried all day long, as evidenced by video after video after video. The minute he did that, he lost his right to self-defense. He was not defending himself. There's nothing in that video that jury sees that they're going to say, man, Joseph Rosenbaum was really defending himself. The prosecution is going to put forward that he was defending others, that he didn't get aggressive until Kyle pointed a gun at the guy in the yellow pants, and then Kyle pointed the gun at him. But again, the videos are pretty clear that this was not what was going on. Again, I don't think the jury is going to buy into that prosecution's theory on that. So they're behind the 8 ball. So they push the line. Why? Because they know that if they push it too far, the worst that happens is a mistrial. They lose something they were going to lose anyways. They have an appeal available for that. And most importantly, everyone blames the judge. Which brings us to the judge. And so I think the judge did a pretty great job. The idea here is the state has a lot on it. They also have a high burden, but they have a lot to work with, including all these videos, a virtually unlimited budget for any given case that they want to throw their money behind, a staff of lawyers who they don't have to worry about paying for trials like this. They have a great benefit. And so if you thought the judge was biased towards the defense, that's how sort of it's supposed to be. He's supposed to be making sure that the trial remains fair and that the defendant gets a fair shake, because everything else is kind of built against him. He has to usually pay thousands of dollars for a defense, even if he's innocent. And so here we start where the judge, I think he made great decisions. I am a defense attorney now, so maybe I'm just defense biased. But no, I thought the judge made decisions that are going to keep either side from appealing, and that in the end is a judge's job. What he doesn't want is for a good verdict, whether it's innocence or guilt, to be overturned. And he did a good job of knowing the law and knowing what the Court of Appeals, the court above him, would appeal and what they wouldn't. So overall, I thought he did a fair shake. I thought he knew the law pretty well, and he did his best to make sure that whatever verdict that jury came back with was going to stand without trampling on anybody's rights. Because if he does that, then that jury verdict doesn't stand. And then the defense. I think the defense had a lot to work with, and they did a pretty good job with what they had. And again, they made an easy case look pretty easy. The most disturbing part came to me when they were asking for jury instructions, and this goes to like everything I'm saying. No matter what, the DA is supposed to be seeking justice, and there was an argument about the length of the gun. Now, the length of the gun is not a fact that was argued. Even arguable, right? The length of the gun is the length of the gun. They know that. They can measure it. And the defense was trying to get in front of the jury that the jury should be able to. The defense was arguing that the jury should be able to find that the gun was shorter than it actually was, because the defense did not bring up the length of the gun. I want to reiterate that. Because the defense didn't bring up the length of the gun, they were trying to use a legal procedural loophole, a legal procedure, to allow the jury to find that the gun was shorter than it actually was. What are we doing here? You want the jury to find him guilty because they think the gun was shorter than it actually was. And why? Because the defense, they didn't bring it up. That's crazy. That's not justice. That's where the law, a loophole shouldn't be allowed. And I say that because, again, if this is civil, if this is about money, sure. Don't allow that instruction and, they lose some money because they didn't bring it up. But that's not what this is about. This is about justice and people's lives, for people's lives. The craziest part of the whole trial was the defense not arguing something that's up in the air, but arguing that the jury should be able to consider that the gun was shorter than it factually was. Other than that, I think it's a pretty cut and dried case. The jury is going to decide whether Kyle pointed the gun and provoked the first attack. I don't think they'll consider anything else after that, because once the first attack was provoked, the rest of the attacks, what was Kyle supposed to do? Allow himself to be killed, possibly? Allow someone to shoot him? Allow someone to beat him to death? No. He should have if he had murdered somebody, but he shouldn't have if he was just protecting himself from that same harm in the initial. Now, a lot of people have trouble with this because I think those two guys who were killed thought they were heroes too. They were foolish, but I think they had pretty much the right intention in mind. They wanted to stop this guy who just shot somebody. I don't think they were thinking I get a free shot, just like I don't think Kyle was thinking that. But if the jury thinks that the scumbag Rosenbaum was approaching Kyle, then that's all there is to it. They didn't get to hear that he's a pedophile, but they got to see the videos of Joseph Rosenbaum's absolute aggression towards everyone and anything. And they heard testimony about him setting fires and just being involved and provoking these riots. And so I anticipate the jury to come back with pretty much all not guilties. Maybe a misdemeanor they might find just because there's so many charges and this is so serious. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the jury will look at it and say this 17-year-old shouldn't have been here, and he's him playing doctor and bringing a gun that he wasn't supposed to have. And again, I understand the legal loopholes and everything in regards to that, but those are loopholes too. We all know that a 17-year-old shouldn't be running around without his parents and in the middle of the city, in the middle of a riot after there's a curfew, and be running around with a rifle. Nobody thinks that's okay that I know, unless you're, again, so biased that you're unreasonable. So that's what I think about the Kyle Rittenhouse case. The only way the jury will find that he was responsible is if they feel he provoked the very first one, and then they could stack up those murders. And then he doesn't have that defense if he was provoking people. I just think that the evidence presented and the testimony from even the prosecutor's witnesses undermine the provocation theory of the prosecutor. So tell me what you think. Leave your comments below. I appreciate those people who ask what I think. And this is it. So thanks for subscribe. I'm going to put this on my old channel because I think these videos are the reason that I'm shadow banned. But I'll be putting some other stuff on my new channel. But please like, subscribe, go find everything I do and like and subscribe it and stuff so that, I don't know, I can spread this to as many people as possible. Spread the knowledge and spread the love because I love you guys, and have a good one.